Hi, everybody. My name's Liz McRae. I'm a co-founder of Village Wealth.
Hi, I'm Eamon Gamble.
And this is the 7-minute takeover where we talk about all things small business acquisitions. So today we're chatting about the importance of the owner's participation of a business post-acquisition. Once all the documents have been signed and you're in the driver's seat of this company, and what does that relationship look like with the exiting owner as you take control of this company?
Yeah, and it's a really important topic because it's more than just about what happens after the transaction. Obviously, that's really important, but the terms that go into this are going to form part of your offer and part of your share purchase agreement. So getting this right may make the difference between a seller saying yes or passing on a deal altogether.
And getting those considerations in alignment at both the letter of intent stage, but then throughout due diligence, as you continue to have very meaningful conversations with the business owner, and you're working out the fine details of the transition plan between yourselves, is getting that alignment in what is truly most important for both parties. Is what, as a buyer, what do you need when you're coming to the table, and what the seller is willing to give, or what their level of participation is post-acquisition. Getting alignment on that and having those deep conversations about what each of you need in this relationship is really key to success.
Yeah, some sellers are, going to want to sail off into the sunset as quickly as possible, and maybe you want them to stick around a little bit longer because maybe key client relationships, key technical knowledge is tied up in their brain, and you need to download that over a period of time. And on the flip side, we've seen sellers that really want to stay involved in the business, and so they are wanting to stick around for a couple of years, and maybe that's not feasible to you as a buyer either, because you can't pay them what they expect to be paid over those first couple of years. Remember that when you're thinking about financing, if it's either raising equity or raising debt financing, a lot of those players are going to be looking at year 1, year 2. And if the cash flow doesn't support your level of expenses in those first couple of years, they're probably going to pass or at least invest or lend at a lower rate. So if you're committing to paying a selling shareholder, a selling owner, a massive salary in year 1 and 2, you're really going to limit what you're able to get in terms of financing from other parties.
Yeah, and it could go the other way too, where maybe you don't need them for as long and they want to stay, and maybe you want to give yourself a buffer where if it's not working out and the relationship isn't going well, maybe it's impacting the culture of the company, and you're satisfied with the amount of training and transition they've provided, and you want an out, to say thanks very much, we're good from here on out, like thanks very much, we'll take it from here. You want to give yourself that freedom to be able to sever the relationship if you've gotten everything you need out of it. But at the same time, then there's the fear from a buyer that are they going to stick around long enough? Like, some sellers want to get out as quickly as possible, and you as the buyer see that as a risk. And then there's instruments that you can implement to tie them and make sure that you're getting the time you need from them. Like, is it that the time that they need to spend with you is bound by the holdback, or that they've got post-acquisition compensation tied in terms of vendor financing or an earnout, or rolled equity. So there's those elements that are tied in to make sure that they're committed. But really, again, whether the buyer wants them to stay or the seller wants to stay or vice versa, is getting that alignment from the beginning about what's important to the transaction is really key. And final.
So, well, there's a couple of options you've got in terms of kind of how you can achieve that alignment that Liz is talking about. The first thing to remember is you're paying the seller a lot of money for the company. And so, in a lot of transactions, we'll say when the transition time is, we'll call it short. Now we'll define short as, 3 to 6 months. It's possible to ask them for a full-time transition for free. And by free, I mean as part of the total consideration that you're paying for the company. It's absolutely not unheard of, and so we've even seen some clients, some buyers that have picked up companies with a transition period of a year as part of total consideration. So, don't be led into thinking that your only option is paying a salary rate from day one. Now, if you want their involvement a little bit longer, or maybe the free transition plan isn't palatable to the seller, like Liz mentioned, you've got a few options. So a seller note would make sure that the seller sees value in trying to keep the company afloat for a number of years. An earnout or performance bonuses could be really helpful if you need their real active engagement in maintaining revenue levels, or keeping costs low over the first year or two. Banks love both seller notes and earnouts because of that alignment. Rolled equity is one we see less commonly, again, because that's a permanent solution to a long-term partnership, and doesn't really give you that out that Liz was talking about. So we see that a little less often, but obviously that can maintain a high level of alignment during that transition period.
And at the end of the day, a topic not to be rushed, and certainly one to give a lot of concentration and effort to. A lot of buyers get swept into the due diligence and all the pieces of closing and concentration on price and terms, but that transition period, negotiating what support and what those terms are going to be is critical to a successful transaction, and what that relationship is going to look like after acquisition. So any parting thoughts, Eamon?
Yeah, we're always interested to hear if anybody had any other interesting methods to make sure that the transition was successful. But like Liz said, the assets are one thing, but making sure that you're taking ownership very directly and effectively from the seller is going to be a huge part of your success. So I think that's about it. Thanks for joining us for the 7-minute takeover, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. But I did